Everything was perfect until the bride said one name that was never supposed to be heard. The music was soft, the guests were smiling, and every detail had been carefully planned to create the illusion of something flawless. From the outside, it looked like a dream. A beautiful bride, a powerful groom, a wedding that people would talk about for years. But perfection has a way of hiding the truth. Her name was Eleanor, and today was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. At least, that's what everyone believed. She stood at the altar, her hands steady, her expression calm. Her dress flowed perfectly around her, every step she took measured and graceful. Beside her stood Adrian, confident, composed, certain, the kind of man who always knew how things would end because he made sure they ended his way. To everyone watching, they were perfect, but perfection can be dangerous because it leaves no room for mistakes. And Elena, she was about to make one, or at least that's what it would look like. The ceremony began like any other. The officiant spoke. The guests listened. Cameras captured every second of what was supposed to be a moment of unity, of love, of forever. But beneath it all, there was tension. Invisible to most, but not to Eleanor. Her eyes moved briefly across the crowd. Faces she recognized. People who believed they knew this story. People who had no idea what was about to happen. "Do you, Adrian?" the officiant began. The vows were simple, predictable, rehearsed. Everything moving forward exactly as expected. Until it was her turn. "Elena," the officiant said gently. "Do you?" "I can't," she interrupted. The words were soft, but they cut through the entire room. Instantly, the music stopped. The whispers began. Adrian turned toward her, confusion flickering across his face. "What do you mean?" he asked quietly. Eleanor didn't look at him. Not yet. Instead, she took a slow breath, and then she said it. A name. One name. Clear. Unshaken. Luca. The room froze. Because that name didn't belong there. Adrian's expression changed instantly. From confusion to something else. Something darker. "Why did you say that?" he asked, his voice tight. The guests looked around, trying to understand. Who was Luca? Why did it matter? And why did it feel like everything had just shifted? Eleanor finally turned to face Adrian, and in her eyes there was no fear, only certainty. "Because you know exactly why," she said. A long silence followed. Heavy, uncomfortable. Adrian let out a short, controlled laugh. "This isn't funny," he said. "If this is some kind of joke, it's not a joke." Her voice was calm, too calm, and that's what made it dangerous. The crowd grew quieter, because now they were paying attention. "What are you doing?" Adrian asked under his breath. "Stop this." But Elena didn't stop. Not anymore. "You told me he didn't matter," she continued. "You told me it was nothing." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Elena, you told me he was gone," she said. The words hit harder this time, because there was something behind them, something real, something unresolved. The whispers grew louder. "What is she talking about? Who is Luca? This doesn't make sense." But Elena didn't look at them. Her focus was only on Adrian. "You lied," she said. "Simple. Direct. Final." Adrian stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You're making a scene," he warned. But she shook her head. "No," she replied softly. "I'm ending one." The tension in the room became almost unbearable, because now everyone could feel it. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was something deeper, something hidden, something that was never meant to come out. "Tell them," Elena said. Adrian stared at her, silent, unmoving. "Tell them who Luca is," she continued. Another pause, another moment of silence that stretched too long, and in that silence, the truth began to form. "He's no one," Adrian finally said, but his voice didn't match his words. Elena smiled slightly, not out of happiness, but out of knowing. "You see," she said, turning slightly toward the crowd. "That's what he does." She looked back at him. "He erases people." A chill ran through the room, because suddenly this wasn't just a wedding anymore. This was exposure. "What are you talking about?" someone in the crowd asked. Elena didn't hesitate. Luca was his brother. The words landed. Heavy, confusing, impossible to ignore. Adrian's face went pale. "That's not," he started. "But no one here knows that," Elena cut in, because he made sure they didn't. The room erupted into whispers. "His brother? Why wouldn't anyone know that? What happened to him?" Elena's voice softened slightly, but her words were sharper than ever. "Because Luca disappeared," she said. Silence. Immediate. Total. And Adrian made sure no one asked why. Adrian stepped forward again. "Stop," he said. "Louder now." But it was too late. The story was already unfolding. "You told me he left," Elena continued. "You told me he didn't want to be found." Her eyes locked onto his. But that wasn't the truth, was it? Adrian didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because sometimes silence says everything. The guests were no longer confused. They were watching, waiting, realizing. "Elena," Adrian said quietly, almost pleading now. "This isn't the place." She tilted her head slightly. "No," she said. "This is exactly the place." Pause? Then? "Because this is where you wanted everything to look perfect." Her voice dropped slightly. "But the truth doesn't care about perfect." The tension broke completely, because now there was no going back. "Where is he?" someone asked. The question echoed, loud, demanding, unavoidable. Elena didn't answer. She didn't need to, because all eyes were on Adrian. And for the first time, he had nothing to say. No control, no narrative, no escape. The silence stretched, and in that silence, everything fell apart. Elena took a step back, removed the ring, and held it in her hand. "This wedding was never real," she said, "because it was built on a lie." She looked at him one last time, not with anger, not with sadness, but with clarity. "You don't get to hide anymore." And with that, she dropped the ring. The sound echoed, small but final. And just like that, the wedding stopped. Not because of chaos, not because of drama, but because one name had exposed everything. And some truths can't be buried twice.